What was it like for you to get that first home run here?
I think it was a really good feeling. I think it was just nice to kind of get back into the groove of conference. I think it's just a different approach a little bit mentally. Like, you really can take it one game at a time is something that we've kind of been emphasizing a lot as a team. And so then from an individual standpoint, like, we talked a lot about just going 1 for 1 in every at bat that we have. So we're kind of like taking it just one at bat at a time, one pitch at a time. So I think that was kind of my mentality personally for this past weekend. So I think that helped me a lot in just my mental approach with the game.
How has this season differed from other seasons that you've had throughout your career?
Yeah, I think for me, being in the ACC, it's just been a little different. Like, here, they highly emphasize in the pack, like, you don't get an off weekend in the pack. Every team is someone that is going to be a top 25 team, and you're competing for a series every single weekend. And so I think that's just where I'm really excited for this year in the pack, and kind of have a different approach with literally every single weekend. You're trying to win the series because it does help you in the long run as a team. So
how do you think the pitching staff started to get into their groove?
I think it's been great. I think I loved personally this weekend getting to work with basically every single one of them behind the plate, which is what I really enjoy. And so I think it was nice being at home. I felt really comfortable with them all on the mound when I was behind the plate. So I think it was really nice to see all of them have success this past weekend.
Do you like catching more than being a DP, or do you just like having those off days where you can hit?
Yeah, I think personally for me, I've always enjoyed catching the most. I think I just am mentally locked in every single pitch when I'm catching, whereas on the DP role, when you're not on defense, you're in the dugout cheering on your teammates. It's a different role, but I think I personally just like the catching role. It's what I'm used to, and I feel like I love just being involved in the game as much as possible. That's why I love softball. So that's just for me personally.
When you're the DP, do you have to change anything about your approach, or do you just try to keep it the same?
I try to keep it the same. I think one thing that is a little different that I'm aware of is just the mental approach of it. Like I've said, like, where I get to go on defense, I'm locked in, I'm with my pitchers, I get to go one pitch at a time with them. Whereas DP, I have my at bat, and then I'm kind of sitting around waiting a little bit more for my bat. So I try to lock in mentally in other aspects of the game. So if I'm in the dugout with my teammates doing charts, trying to pick pitches for the other team, whatever we're doing, we're trying to be involved as much as possible, but just in a different way.
What's your mentality like defensively, like when a runner's trying to go on you?
Yeah, I think just always expecting it, no matter what, no matter who you're playing, just whoever gets on, if they're fast or not, just expecting it every pitch. So then you have that mentality that you're not surprised if they do decide to go. So that's something that I've been trying to be consistent on, is just expecting them to steal every pitch so that I'm ready for it if they do.
Has your scout of Utah given you a bit more insight into what to expect this weekend?
Yeah, I think from an offensive standpoint, we've been working on it a lot, just knowing what their pitching staff is. Like I've said, for me, this is my first year in the pack, so this is my first time facing some of these pitchers, and I know they got a lot of lefty arms on their staff, so that's something that as a team we've been working on and approaching into this week from an offensive standpoint. So
as far as defensively, I haven't familiarized myself as much so far, but they were pretty aggressive on the base paths.
Yeah, that's what Coach Lombardi was saying last year. They have an older veteran on their team that's very fast, kind of similar to Kai and how she is in our lineup. So that's something we're expecting. We're expecting them to be aggressive, kind of like Cal this past weekend too. We were expecting them to be aggressive on the base pass, have their squeeze bunts, get their runners over, have good situational hitting. So we're just kind of having the same mindset going into this weekend. And I think playing Cal this past weekend too kind of helped us prepare for this. So.
And you said you liked playing defense a lot. Going back to the last series against Cal, you had a lot of opportunities to make plays at the plate. Can you just explain what that feels like in that process?
Yeah, definitely. I know it's something that we talked a lot about as a team. Like, you sometimes just simply don't get those opportunities in games consistently. And so I think we had a ton of those this past weekend, which was nice for me because then I get the opportunity to show what we work on in practice every day. We were emphasizing it yesterday in practice. Our outfielders do USA, so they make multiple throws to each base from all positions in the outfield. And so we were talking a lot about how the work that we have done defensively on practice has shown up in the game. And so that's for something she did an amazing job this past weekend. Like everyone that I can remember from the outfield was from Kai. So that was something that really stood out to me, and I was really proud of her for that.
And then one thing I noticed this weekend series as well is as players are going on, sometimes there might be something that's questionable, I'll say questionable, but you're still trying to direct people like the play's not dead, the ball is still live. How do you try to get everyone's attention to make sure that they're focusing on not what's immediate but kind of a macro look?
Yeah, I think just being as vocal as possible is something that the catchers take a lot of pride in, and that's our role from a defensive standpoint too. Like we're the ones calling out where the ball is going to be thrown, and it's our job to read the runners and read how the play is playing out no matter what it is. So I think just being as vocal as possible, and like you said, just expecting everything to be live, and then if they overturn it or if it is foul or whatnot, then just letting that play out on its own, but expecting everything to be played out as if it were live, and expecting that every time is just a good way to go about it.
You mentioned the lefty pitching from Utah. As a left-handed hitter, do you have a preference hitting righties versus lefties, and how does your approach change when you face off against a righty and a lefty?
Yeah, I don't think I really have a preference personally, but it is just a different approach because of how the ball is coming at you. So like lefty-lefty matchup, everything's coming arm side at us as a lefty, so their ball is just more likely to either stay straight at you or everything is then moving away from you. So I think it's just more of an approach in how you're approaching each pitch and where you want to hit it, and that mindset of like where you're going to try to drive it on the field, I think is just a little different, but I don't really have a preference. I mean, either's good, but you do have a little bit of a mindset change just based off of how they throw the ball and where they're most likely to place it.
Where do you try to drive it against a lefty?
Yeah, I think with the lefty, like it's just something you just still want to let the ball get deep. Like everything's kind of usually naturally moving away from us as a lefty hitter. So trying to still work opposite field is something that I think is really important, because if you're early and it's breaking away from you, then you're going to be even earlier. So I think that's something like you just have to have the confidence of letting it get deep and traveling and still working opposite field with everything. So